Hey, you're listening to the wrong podcast. Topics today include parenting, patronage, and past lives.
Wrong!
It's the wrong podcast, but we'll make it right. Spin the world in a whole new light. Witty, wild, and a little askew, and the one who's right, it might be you.
Hi, I'm Tim. I'm here to talk about politics, culture, religion, sports, and anything else you're not allowed to talk about in polite company. Issue number 1. Magic moments. Well, I'd like to welcome a very special guest to the wrong podcast. Welcome, the lovely Wendy.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
And lovely Wendy, how do you feel about Stevie Wonder?
Love it. He's lovely.
He's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was a test to see if you listen to my podcast.
I do. I
Good.
just listened to an episode this morning.
That's almost 2 weeks after it came out.
I did listen to it
Mhm.
before the next one comes out.
So the reason I brought you on is because of another listener, Brian.
Now, did listener Brian say anything that might be a spoiler?
Oh, thank you for the reminder.
Uh-huh.
Indeed, this is a spoiler warning. If you have children in the car,
Mhm.
this is not a podcast for them to listen to potentially.
Potentially. Yeah.
So this is your warning. We're not gonna give you silence or anything. This is your opportunity to turn off the podcast right now.
And now everybody's like, what is?
What are they gonna
And the
talk
child's like, what am I not allowed to hear? It's about magic, actually.
6, 7.
Okay.
Okay. So they've been warned. Lovely Wendy. Listener Brian, he said to me, hey, when do you tell your children that Santa Claus isn't real? He and his wife waited till 5th grade to tell their oldest daughter, and he said their younger daughter was way too smart and got out of the bag with her.
Okay.
So what do you say?
What they
Right.
say their older daughter was not smart.
That's a great question.
Brian?
Yeah, Brian, why'd you say that? So I bring you on because I've heard you rant about this more than once. You have strong opinions about Santa Claus.
Yeah, I do. I'm maybe like post rant as far as myself, because I think I've realized that people have strong opinions about Santa Claus,
Including you.
including me, correct?
Yep.
But I also I don't think your views on Santa are something I need to force on people. But I do have some information to share that might be helpful. So, I think a lot of people that I know don't want to tell their kids about Santa because they have a worry that their kids won't believe them about anything else. Especially for those of us who are Christians, and we say there's this God who loves you, who sent his son, who's also God, and as a baby, and lived and died and rose again. And if you believe in him, and all the things that we want our children to know and understand and are true, and then if you put that next to this idea of Santa Claus, who shares some of those traits as far as like somebody you don't see, right, but believe in, is that going to cause my children not to believe me about God either? And I think it's a fair question.
And you're setting yourself up as a liar too. You told
Sure.
them this thing.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Right. You told them that Santa's real. So for that reason, I think a lot of people tell children from the beginning, some people I know, that there's no Santa, and, other kids might play that, but it's not real. So I have a different position, which is, if you learn about child development, you learn that the answer to, is Santa real? It's actually not just yes or no. There's a third answer, which is Santa's pretend. So for us, with our adult brains, when we hear Santa's pretend, that translates as not real, because as an adult, you understand that real and pretend are two separate things. Something cannot be both pretend and real. However, what makes Santa so much fun for little kids is that they haven't figured that out yet. Their brains are still in the midst of pretend play and magical thinking. And so up until about the age of 8, give or take, depending on the child's development, that one 5th grader who, sorry, the up until about age 8, there is this integration of the pretend and the real that kids are still learning about and figuring out. And my position is, I don't want to do anything to keep them from developing, but I also don't want to ruin the idea of pretend play.
Mhm.
And so whenever a child asks, is Santa real? My response is Santa's pretend. And my answer is not yes, and my answer is not no. My answer is Santa's pretend.
Mhm.
Now, it's really wonderful to do this with small children because, early on, they don't know to ask if Santa's real. And then at some point, they hear another kid talking about it or they're watching a movie or whatever. And then they'll say, is Santa real? And when I say Santa's pretend, well, if they're at the age where they understand the difference, then they'll ask you about that. And you say, well, Santa's pretend. Does that mean Santa's real or not real? And then they're able to say, oh, Santa's not real. But for younger children, when you say Santa's pretend, they haven't yet separated those things out, which makes it just a fun way to play. And you're not lying to your child by saying Santa's pretend. You're just acknowledging that they're still in the developmental stage where pretend is something that they play with and are still figuring out.
It's in a similar way. You're not lying to your child when you say, "Rawr, I'm a monster," and you hold your claws up and you chase after them and they scream.
Right.
That's pretend play. That's fun for them. And they don't believe that you're actually a monster. And they don't think, oh, my dad lied to me when he told me he was a monster. No, it was fun.
Yeah, that's right. And so, I think probably the argument there would be like the Santa play can sometimes get more deceptive, right? Like, oh, reindeer food and look, the reindeer footprints and that kind of stuff. And I mean, you got to figure out for yourself what you do. But for me, if a child says to me, do reindeer really come to my yard? You can say, well, Santa's reindeer are pretend, and then let them fill in the blanks.
I'm a little disappointed there were no F-bombs
Wow.
in that rant. Like, I thought you were going to go for it. I thought we were going to have an explicit rating on this.
Okay.
We told people to have children not listen. So, like, go for it.
They're so disappointed.
Well, I like your answer. Even though when our older daughters were teenagers, I told them they had to say that Santa was real in order for me to put stuff in their stockings.
So evil. The ways that we parent differently, it's just amazing that they turned out as well as they did.
But it was so fun for me.
Right. Because it's
to
really
see
about
them
you.
cringe and go, Santa's real.
So listeners, Tim brings up an important point, which is any kind of pretend play, let's not make it about you, right? Like there are those parents who go so far that they're like, I need my kids to believe in Santa. You know what? If you stopped believing in Santa at some point, that was healthy for you developmentally. Just walk with your kids. Like they're not going to be in the exact same stage they are right now again. So if they're out of the pretend stage, whatever stage they're in, like embrace them, love them, be with them through it.
Well done, Wendy. Thank you. Issue number 2, timeline. I celebrate Christmas with my in-laws every year. They have this tradition where everybody goes around on Christmas Eve and everybody shares one fact about the Christmas story. Not the Santa Claus Rudolph thing. Nobody gets to say that Frosty melted and he came back the next year. That's not what we're talking about. The Christmas story from the Bible. And my father-in-law, he always goes first. And he always shares the same fact. And that is that Quirinius was the governor of Syria. And there's just one problem with him sharing this fact from the Christmas story. And that is, and you will probably hear this right now. It's Christmas season. You're probably hearing this. There's somebody ruining Christmas for you right now by telling you that Quirinius was not actually the governor of Syria at the time. See, we know from other historical facts, mostly from a Jewish historian named Josephus, that Quirinius was not the governor at the same time as Herod the Great. And in fact, Quirinius, he was the governor of Syria, but he wasn't the governor of Syria until about the time Jesus was 10 years old. Now, this, and let me just say, everything I'm going to say from here on out is not original to me. I heard this from another podcast called Undeceptions by this Australian scholar named John Dixon, and I have to say that Undeceptions is easily the most intellectually honest Christian podcast I've heard. he doesn't try to make up things. He doesn't try to avoid things. He sees the errors and he talks through the errors. And he does so on a number of topics. And in fact, one of his most interesting podcasts is on the Jewish historian Josephus and how he talks about Jesus. And there's some controversy about what Josephus says about Jesus. And he has changed his mind about Josephus. And I will provide a link to that because that is not the point of this podcast. This podcast is talking about Quirinius. And back to the issue at hand, Quirinius was not the governor of Syria when Jesus was born. And in addition to that, censuses were taken. What's the plural word for census? Is it census? Is the plural of census? I don't know. We'll figure that out later. So anyways, the Romans, they took census, but there is no recorded history anywhere of requiring the people to return to the hometown of their ancestors when taking a census. And when you read the story of Jesus's birth, it might leave you wondering, how does this work? Like, the main problem in the story is that there's no room for them in the inn. And actually, it doesn't even say there's no room for them in the inn. It just says there's no room for them because they probably didn't go to a hotel. They didn't go to an inn. They went to their home and there was no room for them in the home. And like, if you think about this, this seems like it would be a problem for lots and lots of people. You've got this mass migration going on just so people can be counted. Why would you do this? This doesn't logistically make sense. Why not just count the people where they are? And John, in his podcast, he talks about this, and he agrees with these two facts. Quirinius was not governor when Jesus was born, and it doesn't make sense to send people back home. And he points out that this is true, and if this is true, it doesn't mean Christianity is false. There's really two things that need to be real, to mean real and true, for Christianity to be true. The first is that God exists, that we didn't come from nothing, that there is a creator in the universe. He exists. The second is that Jesus rose again from the grave. Now, for Jesus to rise again from the grave, it would require him to have been alive. It would require for him to have been killed. And then for him to rise again from the grave 3 days later, or on the third day, as it says. Those are the two facts that actually really, really matter. If those two things aren't real, then Christianity isn't real. It can be true that the Gospel of Luke gets it wrong about when Quirinius was governor of Syria, and for Christianity to be true. Now, that would mean that you would have to read the Bible differently than maybe you're used to reading, or the way you've been taught to read it. But Christianity could still be true. Luke could have gotten that wrong for some reason, and Christianity is true. And based on everything we know, those two things are false. Quirinius was not governor, and people were not sent back to their hometowns for a census. But it could be true. It could be true. It's not outlandish that Luke said these two things. We don't have any evidence to support Luke saying these two things. But the way ancient documents work, we could find one document somewhere that says Quirinius was the interim governor during this time, or some other way for us to see what Luke was saying. And I'd like to remember that the people who wrote the Bible, whether it's the gospel writers or it's people who are writing the Old Testament at a much later date, they're not stupid people. They're old, they're ancient by our standards. They have different criteria for what they claim to be true. They write history in a different way, but they are not stupid. And I don't think Luke was stupid. In fact, we know he was a doctor. That means he was most likely not stupid. And he was talking to people who were alive at the time. We get a lot of information from Mary. We think he was talking to Mary. Mary probably knew what was going on at the time of the birth of her firstborn. She wouldn't make this up for no reason. And John says that there's two things that could have been going on that make better sense of this. The first, and just to be clear, we don't have evidence of either of these things, but they could play a factor, and if we found just one piece of document, we would accept both of them. The first is on the census. People did not go back to the birthplace of their descendants for a census, but we have plenty of records that show that people went back to where they owned property for a census. And it could be that Joseph owned property in Bethlehem. He owned part of the property, he owned part of the family property. He was a property owner for some reason, and this would be a reason for him to return to the city of his descendants because the property had been passed on for generations. The second thing about Quirinius is he was not governor. I think I've mentioned that. He was not governor at the time of Herod the Great or of when Jesus was born, but he was a bureaucrat. He was somebody who was serving the public. He was serving the Roman Empire. He was a lesser official. And the word Luke uses for governor could be translated to be official. So at some point, somebody got confused and they said, oh, but wasn't Quirinius governor? And they used the word governor, or we're just using the word governor. But he was an official, and he might have been an official at a high enough rank to have ordered a census in the area of Bethlehem. So, don't let anybody ruin Christmas for you. Doesn't need to be ruined. Hey, it's time. What are the rules?
Oh, what are the rules? What are the rules? Don't touch my fries or my garden tools. Oh, what are the rules? Yeah, I got my quirks. Follow them closely and I promise it works.
Speaking of Christmas, my family was invited over to some friends of ours. They did a little neighborhood pageant, little neighborhood Christmas pageant. All the kids in the neighborhood, they take on the roles for the Christmas story. They retell the Christmas story. It was very cute, and I liked it quite a bit. My friend Kevin happened to be there. People brought desserts, and somebody brought cookies. And I don't know if you have crumble cookies where you are. These weren't crumble cookies, but they were very similar to crumble cookies. And a crumble cookie is a cookie that is like a $5 cookie. And they're a little bit bigger, and there were some there. And I didn't want to be that guy to take a whole cookie. I just needed a half a cookie. So I broke off half a cookie. And my friend Kevin, he goes,
"Oh, you're going to be that guy? Just take the whole cookie. Nobody wants half a cookie."
And here's the deal. I've touched the cookie in a way where I haven't touched the other half of the cookie. I took less of the cookie, in fact, so that I would not touch the other half. I broke it off in a way where, you put your thumb down and you pull up and you take whatever part of the cookie you can get. And I had to say, hey, would it have been better if I would have gotten a knife? If I got a knife and I cut this cookie in half, would that have made it better? Because it seems like, ironically, I'd be more likely to touch the other half of the cookie if I need to cut it with a knife, because I got to hold the cookie down to cut it. And this is where Kevin's kind of a jerk, because he's like, no, I wouldn't take that cookie either. I'm not taking half a cookie no matter what. Whether somebody's broken it off or used a knife, I'm not touching it because I don't trust people. I'm a germaphobe. So this is where I got a little disappointed, and disappointed isn't really even the right word, perturbed with Kevin, because he was getting after me. And he wouldn't have, there's nothing I could have done to solve this. I was taking the whole cookie and nothing else. So, and he's like, yeah, it's worse to break it though than to cut it. It makes it 5% worse. This is where I need your help, listeners. How are you supposed to take half a cookie? Or do you have to take the whole cookie? I think I did the right thing. I think what I did was totally socially acceptable. I need you to weigh in on it. Can you take half a cookie? Remember, I want to know what's wrong with you.
What's wrong with you?
If you'd like to submit a question, topic, or tell me how I was wrong, you can email me at listen@therewrongpodcast.com or submit a comment at my website, therewrongpodcast.com. And help me spread the wrong message. If you like what you hear, share it with your friends. Now it's time for my favorite part of the show. I was wrong.
I was wrong. Oh, I was wrong.
Listener Eric, he said to me,
You're right, A1 will end with this generation.
in a somewhat related note, and I'll explain how these two things are related in a minute. Listener Brian, he reached out and he wrote and he said,
I finished your prediction episode from last year. You have a month to go, but the record doesn't seem great so far.
now what these two things have in common is when I create a podcast, I put it out there, and not everybody listens on the first week or even day or even 2 weeks that I put it out there. Sometimes it's months later. Somebody's listening to one of my old episodes. And to them, I just said these words. But to me, it's been months. It might have even been a year. It might be 2 years. And I don't even know what I said. I don't know what I said, but they know what they heard because they just heard it. And so they approached me about it, and I've forgotten. Because let me be honest with you. Here's a truth about me and this podcast. I speak it into the microphone, and I forget all about it. Part of the exercise of this is to get the thought out of my head. It's to get it out of my head and put it into your head. So, if you have listened to a podcast, maybe see if there's a date on it so I can have some context for how long ago I talked about the fourth turning or AI or anything like that. And yes, Brian, I know my prediction episode. I'm terrible at making predictions for the future. I own this. I'm sure I even owned it when I made those predictions. I will revisit that in my next episode. It'll be a year-end episode. I will make more predictions for the coming year that I'm sure will be wrong. Issue number 3, Worst of Times. The lovely Wendy and I were having a conversation. There was some question. The question was, who is your favorite person in history? And the lovely Wendy, she said something like Mother Teresa or Genghis Khan. I don't remember. She doesn't even remember who she said. Because then she asked me who my favorite person in history is. And I said, Jesus. And she got a look on her face that was both disgusted with herself that she could not have thought of saying Jesus because that is her favorite person in history, and also disgust at me for being so righteous. Like she was disappointed that somehow in this moment I was more righteous than she is. And that does not happen often. Let's be clear. It's, in fact, a point of order that everybody who knows the lovely Wendy and I are quick to point out to me that she is more holy than I am. I don't know why everybody feels the need to remind me of this like I don't know, as if I don't live with her. But in this moment, I was the holier person. And that's why neither of us remember who her favorite person in history was, because this moment was rare and exceptional for me. Now, there's a follow-up question about your favorite person in history, and that is, would you like to go back in time to see them in their element? Would you want to go back in time, and would you want to go back in time, period? What point of history would you like to go back to witness? And when it comes to visiting Jesus 2,000 years ago, this is a dubious question because there's a lot going on that I'm not sure I would survive. It would be very difficult. Not just understand, but even survive the situation would be very, very difficult. First off, Jesus spoke Aramaic. I do not speak Aramaic. So I go back 2,000 years in time. I'm sitting there listening to Jesus preach, and I've got no clue what he's saying. I'm not even sure if I was, let's just say I'm able to take my phone back with me, and I've got Google Translate with me to somehow get a connection to the internet and translate. I'm not sure Google Translate can handle Aramaic from 2,000 years ago. Maybe Claude could do it. AI's pretty advanced, but I've got no internet connection if I'm going 2,000 years back in time. Second thing is culturally. People talk to each other differently. They express each other differently. I don't know the language. I don't even know the cultural cues, even if I did know the language. Third, it would be so hard to live in that environment. Like, just imagine sleeping. Where would I sleep? How uncomfortable it would be. I'm used to a bed. I'm used to a pillow. I got none of that. Fourth, dysentery. I'm going to die from dysentery, for sure. For sure. It's not going to take long. I am going to catch some sort of bug that's dead now, but it's alive back then. I'm drinking unboiled water. I'm dying from dysentery. I give myself 3 days max before I get dysentery, but if I'm supposed to hang out for 3 years for all of Jesus' ministry, not happening. I'm dying within 6 months. That's true of all of you. It almost doesn't matter how far back in time you go. If you go back in time, you want to make sure that you're going back to maybe a week ago. You do not want to go too far back in time. If you're going back in time, for sure you want antibiotics to be available. You want penicillin to have been invented or discovered or whatever it is they did with penicillin. Also, vaccines. You want vaccines to be available. Hopefully, the smallpox vaccine. You do not want to go back to a period of time where smallpox is ravaging people, because you're going to die from smallpox, and it's going to be awful. You've got no immunity to smallpox right now. Maybe we do. Maybe that's what chickenpox is. I don't know. Are we getting smallpox vaccines? But penicillin and a smallpox vaccine, that's the bare minimum I want to go back in time. Now, I bring all of this up because Matt Walsh, he's this right-wing podcaster. I've mentioned him in the past. I'll have a link to my previous episode about Matt Walsh. He took to social media, and this is what he had to say.
It's an empirical fact that basically everything in our day-to-day lives has gotten worse over the years. The quality of everything, food, clothing, entertainment, air travel, roads, traffic, infrastructure, housing, etc., has declined in observable ways. Even newer inventions, search engines, social media, smartphones, have gone downhill drastically. This isn't just a random old man yells at clouds complaint. It's true. It's happening. The decline can be measured. Everyone sees it. Everyone feels it. Meanwhile, political pundits and podcast hosts, speaking of things that are getting worse, focus on anything and everything except these practical real-life problems that actually affect our quality of life.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
Now, that's not just wrong, it's stupid. It is so stupid. Now, if you're familiar with Matt Walsh, you know that that was not his voice. I used AI to read that for you. But back to his stupidity, because that was so stupid. First off, he says it's a verifiable fact. And in fact, it's a verifiable fact that he's absolutely wrong. Everything is better today. I don't know when he wants us to go back in time. I don't know what the magic moment for him is that everything was better, but he's wrong. Every single thing is better now than it was, even a year ago. Education is way better than it used to be. So many more people are educated. I know you hate the education system. I know you're so disappointed with it. it's better now than it's ever been. Your ability to get information, even free information, is so great right now. You want to learn anything you can, and you can probably learn it for free. Crime, murder, rape, theft, they're all way, way down. All of them. Every crime statistic you can think of is down. It doesn't matter how awful that particular crime thing is that you hate, it's better now than it's ever been. Shark attacks. Shark attacks are down. Just kidding. I don't know about shark attacks if they're down. They're actually always pretty low. But I'm sure even those are better. Disease. I talked about this earlier with dysentery and smallpox. Everything about disease is better right now. All of our medical care is way better than it's ever been. This is the main reason you don't want to go back in time. They are discovering things every day that make your life better in terms of medical care. They know how to do surgeries. They can do them quickly. They can do them at a very low cost. They're all becoming very routine. Not all of them, but so many surgeries are routine now. Go watch a video on a knee replacement and it will blow your mind. Go watch a video, it doesn't have to be an actual knee replacement or an actual hip replacement. Go watch some animation about how they do it. It'll blow your mind that they do this sort of thing. They give people new hearts and it's routine. The heart surgeon has done it hundreds, if not thousands of times. That's how routine it is. That should blow your mind. You have so many choices right now. So many options. It used to be, I was talking to my parents about Laverne and Shirley.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Schlemiel, Schlemazel, Hassenpfeffer Incorporated.
We're gonna do it. Give us any chance, we'll take it. Read us any rule, we'll break it. We're gonna make our dreams come true. Doing it our way. Nothing's gonna turn us back now.
They were complaining about how terrible Laverne and Shirley were. And I was like, well, why did you watch it? And they said, because we had to. There was nothing else on TV. We had 3 choices. You watched whatever was on in that moment. Right now, you've got some streaming service, be it Prime or Netflix or Disney Plus, and I know that you've scrolled through there and thought there's nothing to watch. Isn't that amazing that you've got hundreds of choices on that streaming app and you don't think there's anything to watch? It used to be you only had 3 choices and you would accept any of them. You don't choose things now because you can be picky. You can be picky about your time. You have so many things you can do with your time. And when you go to the store, you have so many options. You can choose what kind of flavor of chili you want. It used to be that you were lucky to get salt and pepper. Now you can get spices from all over the world and you're used to them. You want them in your food. You demand them in your food. Those things didn't used to exist. They weren't there for you. Cars are so much better. I promise you, if you got into a 2025 Honda Accord and you drove that around for a month and then you went back and got a 2018 Honda Accord, you would think the 2018 Honda Accord is not all that great. And that 2018 Honda Accord is amazing. It's really, really amazing. And you would not put up with that car if you got used to a 2025 Honda Accord. All the cars are getting better. Like having a AAA membership, you have to question whether or not it's worth it all the time. And probably the reason you keep it is just in case you lock your keys in the car. It used to be you really needed something like that because cars broke down all the time. It used to be that you would get flat tires all the time. You hardly ever get a flat tire now. Unless you live in a country like Cambodia, you're not getting flat tires if you live in the United States or Canada. Technology is always getting better and always getting cheaper. And he complains about the apps and how they're all getting worse, and it's just not true. I promise you, whatever application you use, be it Microsoft Word or Adobe Photoshop or whatever it is that you're using, if you used an older version, you wouldn't like it. You would not like the old Facebook. As terrible as Facebook is sometimes, and how they're making changes that don't make sense to you, I promise it's better than it's been. When was the last time you saw a video buffering? You don't see that anymore. Your internet speed is so much faster than it used to be. And the infrastructure that everybody's built their websites on is so much better, so much more secure. It's laughable. It's laughable that he thinks everything used to be better, because it's just simply not true. And part of this is we all have this affection for nostalgia. And what's great about nostalgia is it's a vacation to a time that we used to live in. But that vacation is a vacation. Sometimes you'll meet somebody who's dating long distance and they think they have this great relationship because they get together every once in a while and it's amazing. And yes, it is amazing because you're on vacation with that person. You're not in real life. And I say that as somebody who dated long distance. It's not real life. You were there on vacation and everything is wonderful and it's great because you don't have to work, and that's what nostalgia is. It's this brief moment where you go on vacation to a bygone era in your life and everything is great because you're not putting up with any of the awful things that existed in those moments. And what's even better about it is there was a ton of ambiguity for you in that moment, in that stage of your life, that moment in history. There was ambiguity, but there's no longer ambiguity about it anymore. You know how the story ended up. You know what questions were answered and how they were answered and what happened. And so of course you can think back about that time, and it's so great because everything's rosy. And this is just a point about podcasters. This is not even just about podcasters. He's right. Podcasting is awful. Podcasting hosts are terrible. They're terrible, terrible human beings. Don't listen to any of them. Aside from podcasters, this is something that should be true about you too. You need to be optimistic. You need to be hopeful. You need to be looking forward to the future because things will get better. There are terrible, awful things happening in your life right now and happening in the world. There are problems I want solved. I want them solved so badly. They will be solved somehow. We don't know how they're going to be solved. There will be a solution. Things will get better. Have some optimism in your life. That's what's great about Christmas in general, is it reminds us to have hope. You need to have hope. You don't need to hope the world burns down because it's never going to get back to the way it was. Things are getting better. And back to podcasters, you just need to be aware that there is this direct correlation with telling you everything is terrible and making lots of money. That's how they get you. That's how we get you. We complain about stuff. They complain about stuff. They tell you everything's terrible and nothing's going to fix, and you get into this doom loop with them, and there is a financial incentive for them to remain in the doom loop. Don't buy into it. Find some hope in your life. But I could be wrong. If you think I am, let me know. Let me know why. I had fun and I hope you did too. Bye-bye.
It's the wrong podcast.
Wrong!
Well, I invited you on because listener Brian reached out to me and he said, Tim, when do you tell your children that Santa Claus isn't real? Spoiler. Oh, I should have said beforehand. Big spoiler if you're living with your children.
Oh my gosh, you have to start over. You have to start over.
We have to start over. All right, fine.